welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. Thank you for joining me yet again for another daily meditation from James Allen. I'm looking forward to it. Again, as always, this month has been just fantastic. Loved every one of them. And yesterday we talked about being a spiritual being and what that means. And how our heritage is righteousness and goodness, but we became normalized to sin and sinful nature, it's our duty and our destiny almost to return to goodness. So I'm looking forward to today's. It'll be fresh to you and fresh to me. So you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, because this will be the first time I hear it or read it on the podcast with y'all. So here we go. This is May 11th of James Allen's Daily Meditations. He who would find how good at heart men are, let him throw away all his ideas and suspicions about the evil in others, and find and practice the good within himself. Man has within him the divine power by which he can rise to the highest heights of spiritual achievement, by which he can shake off sin and shame and sorrow and do the will of the Father, the supreme good, by which he can conquer all the powers of darkness within and stand radiant and free, by which he can subdue the world and scale the lofty pinnacles of God. This can man, by choice, by resolve, and by his divine strength, accomplish, but he can only accomplish it in and by obedience. For he must choose meekness and lowliness of heart. He must abandon strife for peace, passion for purity, hatred for love, self-seeking for self-sacrifice, and must overcome evil with good. This is the holy way of truth. This is the safe and abiding salvation. This is the yoke and burden of the Christ. That's amazing. It's a really big. I love the by which he can. Like it's telling us definitively that this is something we can overcome, or this is something that we can make use of almost, or whatever it might be. And because of that, that's pretty encouraging, I guess, and pretty standalone, to sit there and list all of those negative things, those seemingly impossible things to overcome, maybe to some, and say this we can. This is possible, and this is how. So let's go back to the beginning line. He who would find how good at heart men are. So for the person that seeks the goodness in men, right, and for the person that's going to seeks to find the goodness in men, let him throw away all his ideas and suspicions about the evil in others. Right? We have to get rid of our prejudices. We have to get rid of our old ideas, our judgments. I believe that's crucial. We have to cast those aside if we want to find the good in others, and find and practice the good within himself. So get rid of these selfish, self-centered, self-serving, fear-driven lenses we've been viewing the world with for our entire lives until we start walking this path, because that's the only other option, really. And live a spiritual life and live by spiritual principles and spiritual disciplines, right? And you will find the good in man. you will find the goodness in man instead of just the evil or the condemnations. When you look at men and individuals with love, you will find so much more. When you it's our job to practice these principles. And when we do that, we find the principles and the good in others. And that's just an amazing thing. I didn't realize how much of my perspective and vision was tainted with hatred and fear and anger. So to read something like this is very mind-blowing. Because for a long time I thought the world had to prove to me that it was good. And I kept finding what was wrong. He goes on to say here, man has within him the divine power by which he can rise to the highest heights of spiritual achievement. That's within all of us. That sits within our souls. That a lot of people look externally to them for this thing, this divine power. Like we need to go find someone else that has it and take it, like, or that it's going to be found in a book somewhere, or that it's going to be found out just anywhere outside of ourselves. But the reality of it is everything we need is sitting within us. And I know that sounds corny. I know it sounds corny because I've called it corny. Almost the exact statement I just said. Everything we need is right here within us to change our lives right now, to start building it towards a different lifestyle and way of living. And because of that power within us, that we just have to acknowledge, we have to tap into, we can rise to the highest heights of spiritual achievement. Whatever that looks like. That can be a lot of things. I couldn't even imagine what the highest heights of spiritual achievement would be, honestly. And I mean, maybe it would be Christ-like, like the biblical Jesus Christ. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But that's a pretty steep order there. And this is where we go to the he can phrases, by which he can shake off sin and shame and sorrow. The shame and sorrow, shake off sin and shame and sorrow, the guilt and shame we have over what we've done and what we've lost and what we think about ourselves, that can be shaken off. And do the will of the Father, the supreme good. So we can take these things that we've let define our perspective, let them define our character and define our past. We can shake them off and become people that do the will of the Father, the supreme good. We are righteous people that follow the righteous path, the good path, the spiritual path, the spiritual way of living. By which he can conquer all the powers of darkness within and stand radiant and free. Radiant and free, that I did not believe I could do when I got into my recovery and started walking this path and doing these things. People told me that was possible, but to be standing there, to be somebody that people perceive as a positive influence on their lives, I never thought would have been a descriptor of me. And to be free of my insecurities, and I'm not perfect at that. They show up from time to time, different ones. But to be free from the bondage that I put myself in, the chains I had weighed myself down with, it's a miracle today. It really is a miracle today for me to be standing here radiant and free and conquer the powers of darkness within, by which he can subdue the world and scale the lofty pinnacles of God. So that climb, that spiritual attainment, we're talking about that again. So we can stand unfazed by this world in general because we practice and walk a spiritual way of life, regardless of circumstance. And we can then scale the lofty pinnacles of God. We can walk this path, this narrowing path. As we reach the top, it becomes just the more narrow. As we walk it, it changes. It demands more of us. Actually, it demands less of us. This can man, I stumbled on that because it didn't make sense, but now I understand, because there's by which he can. So this can man, all those things we just said, by choice, by resolve, and by divine strength, accomplish. This can man, by choice, resolve, by divine strength, accomplish. So man can accomplish all of these things he just said, but we have to choose to do it. We have to be disciplined about doing it, and we have to ask that power greater than ourselves. Like I say, I always try to leave it wide open as to what that is. The God of your understanding, power greater than yourself. However you'd like to phrase that. We can accomplish these things, but we can only accomplish it in and by obedience, discipline, adherence to these principles. He must choose meekness and lowliness of heart. We have to get our pride and our ego out of the way, and we have to stop attaching ourselves to these external things to define ourselves by. Meekness, lowliness of heart. He must abandon strife for peace, like the desires, right? The opinions we hold, we have to abandon those. We cannot hold on to those as ours. We cannot hold on to those as right, even. We abandon those things for peace. We must have a passion for purity. Passion for purity. To enthusiastically and intentionally pursue a spiritual life which demands to be purified of our deeds, thoughts, and heart. We have to be excited about that. And the excitement will come when you start seeing the changes. Let me tell you too. So oh wait, maybe I read that wrong. We have to be excited. That dedication is what we were really talking about, not passion. We must get rid of, the emotional way, the self-serving passions is what he's referring to here. Excuse me, I misinterpreted that. The self-serving passion we must get rid of and put in instead purity, which is a 100% accordance with the spiritual principles and disciplines we talk about here. We must abandon hatred for love, self-seeking for self-sacrifice, and must overcome evil with good. We have to sacrifice strife, passion, hatred, self-seeking for peace, purity, love, and self-sacrifice. Again, a tall order for some. It was a tall order for me. And some days it can still be a tall order for me. But by doing these things, it will help us overcome that evil with good. And they will become our natural behaviors. They will become the way we act. And this is the last line. This is the holy way of truth. This is the safe and abiding salvation. This is the yoke and burden of the Christ. So this is what we're talking about here. This is the purifying, again, just the removal of self in all capacities when we walk through this world. Removal of our own selfish desires, our own opinions, our own desire to impose our will, all of these things. All of our emotional passions and upheavals. That is the holy way of truth. That is the abiding and safe salvation. That is the yoke and the burden of Christ. Discipline. I heard this a while ago, and I emphatically believe it is true that discipline is the yoke of a free man. And every day that's proved true to me. So there we go. That is May 11th reading from James Allen. And another reading about how we walk the path and what it enables us to do when we do. And I love that. Everything about that is just amazing. And I just appreciate it so much. So thank y'all for joining me today. I look forward to following up with tomorrow's May 12th. And we'll go from there. So until next time, thanks.